look who's joining us. Part of Mike and Mike, 15 years doing it, waking up on the mothership. A veteran, a grizzly veteran. He's Mike Greenberg, who joins us now. Greenie, congratulations on 15 years.
Thanks, Dan. That's nice of you. I genuinely can't believe it's 15 years. It feels like, in all honesty, it feels to me like it could have been months ago that we used to do the show, and then Tony would come on, and then you and Rob Dibble would come on, and to me, that there's no way in the world that feels like 15 years. I guess I don't really have a good idea of what 15 years is supposed to feel like, but that feels much more like something you would count in months than it does in years.
That first time you woke up at whatever, godforsaken hour, 4 in the morning, 4:30, whatever it was, what was that feeling like?
Awful. And it was just awful. I had done radio in Chicago before I came to doing this, and I had absolutely no intention of doing this for a living ever again, or when they offered it to me to do it with Mike. I told this this didn't get into the paper the other day when USA Today interviewed me, but I came to ESPN because I wanted to be you. I wanted to be Dan and Keith, which every young sportscaster I knew then wanted to be. And I was trying to work my way onto SportsCenter from ESPN News. And I took the job doing Mike and Mike because I thought that the executives might hear me and might like my work, and it would give me a better chance of doing that. Because in those days, the kinds of things that we're doing now, shows like ours and yours and PTI and all the other shows of that kind of really didn't exist.
Yeah.
SportsCenter was the highest thing you could aspire to, and that was what I aspired to. So I had no intention of doing this. But to go back to your question, it was awful, and it continues to be awful. People ask, do you get used to it? And the answer is not really. That first minute or two still remains very tough.
And you watch sports differently because there are games that start later. How hard is that to be able to watch something, or you have to wait till the next morning and just see the highlights?
Yeah, I usually do that, to be honest with you. The things that I know I really have to see, what I've done, technology has made it a lot easier. So the stuff I know I really have to see, I will DVR, and I'll get up an hour earlier and I'll watch it, like Sunday Night Football, for example, Monday Night Football. I'll get up a little earlier. I will look and see what the most significant things that happened in the game were, and then I will watch those things on the DVR. So I do see more highlights at this point, at least sometimes, than anything else. And you get to things like the NBA Finals and the World Series that you just can't miss, and you can't just watch the highlights because you have to get the sense of what was going on, the sense of what was on the telecast and all of that. So then you just kind of suck it up and you feel awful and exhausted for about 2 weeks.
Do you have to be friends with your co-host, with Golick?
You have to get along. Like, in all honesty, the first two-man sports talk team that sort of everyone knew about, at least that I knew about, was Mike and the Mad Dog. And I don't know those guys well, but everything you hear about them is that they did not like each other for the 20 years or whatever it was that they were together. And in all honesty, I have no idea how they did that because, you spend so much time together, and your lives, your professional lives, and no matter how you slice it, sort of your entire lives are so intertwined that if you don't get along, I genuinely don't know how you would do it. With Mike and me, you know us, we're so different. We live 70 miles away from each other. We were at totally different stages of lives even when we began our show. Golick's kids were in high school. My kids weren't even born yet. So we've really never spent any time together outside of the show, and not significantly anyway. And I think that's been beneficial, So our relationship has largely revolved exclusively around the show. That's important to both of us. That's gone very well. And then we are definitely friendly. We get along well. We've never had a real issue. But I think it has helped us that we have not been, close friends, that our families haven't spent a lot of time together, because that can bring a lot of external crap into a relationship professionally that you really don't need to have.
Yeah, same with when I worked with Keith, that we didn't socialize, and we're opposites. I had a family. He didn't. Where he lived, where I lived, we couldn't have been more opposite, but we didn't socialize. So when we saw each other every day, we had conversation. It was fresh. It wasn't a carryover from the weekend where, we got together. And I thought that was beneficial because we look forward to those conversations, and they were real. As opposed to, you kind of have to have that forced conversation with your co-host because you're there for 6 or 7 or 8, 9 hours writing SportsCenter.
Right. I totally agree. And that is obviously one of the reasons that you guys were what you guys were. And with us, because we are both married, the last thing on earth you need then is, my wife is mad at your wife over, we had a barbecue and now our wives are fighting, or our kids are mad at each other. There's this. And, Golik's kids are big. My kids are little. So there would have been very little fighting going on. But that was the last thing in the world you need. So I think it's, it doesn't have to be a partnership in this business. My dad was a lawyer, and they had a law firm, Greenberg and Tuckman, and they were best friends, for like 60 years. And I don't know how in the world they did it, because they saw each other every single day and on weekends. And, somehow they never got sick of each other. But Mike and I, if we did that, I think at some point between then and now, we would have gotten sick of each other.
I'm still haunted by the Golik doing the Kim Kardashian pose. I don't look at Kim Kardashian the same way. It's sad that Golik did that to me.
It's awful. I mean, and the hilarious thing about it, I don't know if you know the details of this part of it, but that came from a wager. I went to Northwestern. Mike went to Notre Dame. Northwestern won a miraculous game, and so I won the bet. So not only did Golik have to do that pose, but his wife was the one who was like putting the oil on him and stuff. And their son is the one who took the photos.
Oh boy!
Now you tell me.
Oh boy!
I don't know much about you,
Greeny. That's an FCC violation, isn't it? What happened?
I think it's actually something you might want to report to the Department of Children and Family Services. I mean, they should take he's 25 years old, but even so, that's the kind of thing that I think would put a person into therapy.
Wait. His son was doing his son wasn't putting the oil on, was he?
No.
Oh,
his wife put the oil on.
His wife did.
His son took the pictures. So, Mike, imagine you're standing in a room. Your father is fully naked. And, Mike was fully naked. Your mother is with, like, a paint roller putting oil of some kind on him. And you're standing there snapping photos, like you're Annie Leibovitz. It's almost too awful to consider. So, however horrific the experience of seeing it has been for you, me, and anyone else with the misfortune of having seen it, it has to have been way worse for him.
Hey, congrats on 15 years. Tell Golik congrats as well, and good to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's always my pleasure, and I said it this week. Again, I really wish that had gotten into the paper, but you were one of the people when I started that I looked up to more than anybody, and you were always very helpful to me when I started at ESPN. So thank you for everything, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you, Greeny. It's
Thanks,
Mike Greenberg, 15 years, Mike and Mike.